Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Gal.
Hey.
Good morning.
Hello, everyone.
And Nick is here.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning. And Spence is here.
What is the code for today? I can't speak until you
The
give
code,
me the trip.
we
the
can't
trip
say
code
we
for
can't
today.
we can't say it in public.
I'm sorry. Then I can't. If I can't trust
Yeah.
you with the security code, I can't talk.
It's Singapore.
We'll make an exception.
Stiffy. Come to the day.
That's it. Okay, good. That's it.
Sorry.
Mike is not here yet. No.
He is not. I'll let you know when he pops in.
All right. Our number is 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is made possible by vMix Software, Telestream's Wirecast software, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Well, good morning, everybody.
I've got to wish a happy belated birthday to our fearless leader, Mr. Amnon Nissan, who turned
thank you very much.
42 years old on Friday.
He was at least 42.
Yeah. So happy birthday.
He has some years of experience in that.
Yeah. I mean, it's incredible. He's got 60 years of web hosting experience, and he's only 40 years old. It's crazy. Hopefully
Thank you, guys.
You either get older or you don't.
They say.
Thank you. Doesn't feel like it, but it's fine.
Did you get that new Mercedes you were hoping for?
Not yet.
Got a tank. Actually got a helicopter. We're going to use it for the block party.
All right. It's a slightly used Sikorsky.
Slightly.
We got a good deal on a used Coast Guard helicopter.
Yeah, they're just flying off the shelves right now.
Yeah.
A little bit of water damage.
It's only been underwater once.
Got it, Ollie's. Big deals, big discounts.
That's it.
So
good stuff, cheap.
Yeah, there you go. An Apache attack helicopter. Got a hell of a deal. Good Lord.
You go and get a helicopter and a Sunbeam
microwave
frying pan in the same store.
So, Nick.
Yes, sir.
When are you changing your operating system to Linux for the gaming?
You know, in all seriousness, I don't know what story you're going to read, but we were having a conversation yesterday about Windows 10 when I was playing some game, and we were playing. I don't remember what we were playing, but we were having a conversation about Windows 10. Somebody else was having audio issues where their microphone was not working. Turns out they're using a Behringer something or other as their preamp, USB preamp. Mm-hmm. So I explained my issue with it, and they're like, "Oh, I hate Windows. It's the worst." And I said, "Yeah, but there's no Linux alternative for most things. So let's hear it. What do we got?"
Well, the article goes, attempts to establish Linux as a gaming platform have failed time and time again, with Valve's SteamOS being the latest high-profile casualty. Yet, Linux has emerged as a significant platform in the much smaller niche of retro gaming, especially on a Raspberry Pi. Atari has now re-emerged from the fog of gaming history with the Ubuntu-based Atari VCS gaming and media streaming console aimed at retro gamers. Now, once it starts, it keeps on going. In addition to games, the Atari VCS will also offer internet access and optional voice control. With
That's pretty
a
cool.
Bluetooth keyboard and mouse, the system can be used as a standard Linux computer. The catch is that the already delayed systems won't ship until July
So this is
2019.
this is their own distribution and custom distribution.
This is them trying to do the Nintendo. They're competing with Nintendo's SNES and NES classics, which were whopping successes. Don't even describe how incredibly these things sold. I mean, to when I got mine, I had text messages being sent to my phone when they were back in stock on GameStop. I mean, people were going nuts for these things. That's all they're trying to do. They're feeding off the hype. They'll do limited run. You won't be able to buy it anywhere.
Yeah, well, let's see.
How viable is running a VM on Linux to do a Windows 10 environment? Do you do that? Has anybody tried that with gaming?
I don't know. I guess I'm more of a gal's alley.
Not that I'm saying it's optimal, but I wonder if it is for people who want to use legacy stuff that isn't going to be ported over to that environment.
That's a good question.
For legacy stuff, it's possible. It's definitely possible. You don't necessarily need a VM. You can run it on Wine.
Yeah.
Wine will be much cleaner. You're right.
Yeah. So as long as we're talking about games that are 5 to 8 years old and older, those will probably run okay on Linux. And if you look at the availability on Steam, usually it's the older games that are available on Linux, or games that are developed in libraries that off the shelf are available as multi-platform.
Yeah.
And they're usually available as multi-platform, not for Linux, but for Mac.
For Mac.
But because Mac and Linux are so close in architecture, it's usually also possible to port them to Linux.
Correct me if I'm wrong here. The biggest issue is direct show, right? That's the issue with running games on Linux.
Yeah, and that's Windows proprietary. That's Microsoft all the way.
And a lot of games rely on the direct show library to run. And it's on the topic of gaming. I believe Apple had their WWDC this week, and they announced that OpenGL is now deprecated on the most recent version of whatever stupid mountain name they called their new OS, which is just another kind of strike for gamers. Leaving Windows is the only, really pretty much the only viable option if you want to play anything modern. So now that that's no longer supported, it's unfortunate because I wish there was an alternative. I hate Windows, but what am I going to do?
Well,
The
why? Let's talk about why you hate Windows. I mean, when we're having this discussion 5 years ago, there was still a lot to love about other offers, but not Windows couldn't be up to par, and it was only you felt like hijacked. But these days, DOS is exactly the same as any other. It does as well as any other, and I don't think it has any specific niches where it is failing. So,
well, I think the biggest issue with Windows, from my perspective, is more of a content creator perspective of what I do here and what I do over at the radio station, is the lack of control on Windows 10. I really do like Windows 10. It's so much quicker than Windows 7, but the inability to stop the updates, doing the updates and all of the audio drivers breaking across the computer, things like that are just so frustrating. It's a real turnoff for Windows 10, and it does make me contemplate installing Windows 7 on some of these machines, which I don't want to do it under any circumstances. But I'm in a couple broadcast groups on Facebook, and even with Windows 10 Pro, with everything turned off, with everything disabled, people are waking up and finding computers that are saying, "Hello, welcome to Windows," with a little, icon or something flying around the screen telling them that they've recently done an update. So that's kind of unfortunate.
So I can help you with that.
Okay.
There's definitely a possibility. I'll need to do some research, but that's not that's the same in all the OSs. I mean, they're basically taking the Mac approach of the company knows a lot better than its consumers, and this is mandatory. And with all the security hacks being published every once in a while, this is the better solution, right? If you look at Linux, so you have the monolithic distribution with Ubuntu and Debian having major versions upgrade in parallel to all the security hot fixes, and you have the long support channel, and you have the cutting edge channel where you'll probably encounter more bugs. And you have Arch Linux, which is an amazing distribution, right? Which is a rolling update model, which means it's exactly like Windows 10, right? There's no fixed version. There's no large gaps in versions. There's always a rolling update, but that allows a single stream of development, and somehow allows more stability than those major upgrades steps.
Yeah, and I'm never the person to say don't do updates, pause updates, block updates, or anything like that. But these recent Windows 10 creator updates, and I don't ever remember having this issue with Windows 7, just for whatever reason seem to break the similar things. It's printers and audio drivers time and time again, until, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks after the update's out, that they've pushed a couple of little fixes or little changes to fix it. That's just really frustrating. I need to do another one again and see if they fixed my issue.
The other part of it is they're quietly sunsetting drivers from their database. That's what happened with some of my older machines that worked fine with earlier versions of Windows 10. And then when I had the creators update, we no longer support that particular Intel graphics chip. So you're stuck. Well, what do? It's not there anymore. So you have to find another way to do it. So that's what's aggravating. They're not telling you, oh, by the way, we removed support for this legacy video card. That broke my multi-display setup for my Dell laptop when a creator's display came out, and it screwed it all up, and it was never the same. That's why I went back to a desktop.
Well, and I'll say again, I do think Microsoft needs to be doing this because people refused to do the updates. This is the biggest issue with Windows 7 and Windows XP. People didn't want to do the updates, and they get hacked, and then they bitch about Microsoft, how they're unstable and a terrible operating system. I just wish there was a good middle ground between doing the update immediately and giving, and that's what I thought purchasing Windows Pro would do. Windows 10 Pro would allow you to maybe have some more control over that, but it's pretty much the same.
All you can do is delay it.
All you can do is delay it. It's pretty much the same thing.
I think but delaying for a year is you sort of like solve the problem or most of the problem.
Yeah, true.
They need to do a better job of separating out the feature updates from the required security and performance updates, which every time they come out with a new feature update, they create a whole new requirement for security and performance updates because they mess things up so much.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, I love Windows 10. Don't get me wrong. Just some of the update stuff's a little frustrating.
Oh, I'm happy with it. I have no Windows 7 machines anymore.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the article keeps going. It says, by the way, it's July 2019 that they're going to release it. And it says, by then, Atari plans to have new and exclusive games for download and streaming, including reimagined classic titles from Atari and other top developers, as well as multiplayer games. And the store will also offer video, music, and other content. Now, it's not open source, and the games will be protected with HDCP. However, the Ubuntu Linux stack based on Linux kernel 4.10 is open source and includes a customizable Linux UX. and then it has a Linux sandbox will be available for developing or porting games and apps. So developers can build games using any Linux compatible gaming engine, including Unity, Unreal Engine, and Game Maker.
Cool.
They
The
also say
only specific requirement I have is that they have to come up with a multiplayer version of the original ET game.
Why is it, did you say
They need
July?
they need to dig up all those
Yeah.
cartridges that they buried.
yeah,
And-
Nick, they're saying
and
that
retrofit them into this new machine. That would be great.
the thing in there, Nick, it says the catch is that the already delayed systems won't ship until July 2019.
Talk about striking when it's cold. I mean,
I don't know.
July 2019. I mean,
That's another year. Yeah.
I mean, there's going to be companies that are announcing games at E3 today and tomorrow that are going to be saying, "Hey, this game comes out in 6 months. It's a full game." The Atari can't remaster some old games.
Maybe they don't want to fail and they want to see how the other ones would work. And
I bet you it's a production issue with getting the physical device made, because they're doing what Nintendo did, I'm assuming, and they're building out a box for it to sit in that looks as a smaller version of the Atari. That's what Nintendo did with theirs.
Maybe they just don't have the financial resources to do it. I don't know how big Atari is right now. It's not the original company, obviously, at all. It's whether there's even anything left from the original company. Did it go into bankruptcy and somebody just bought the name and then they're just using that? So we don't really know. Did they buy they must have bought the license to continue the trademark and some of the legacy games, but who knows? They may not have the financial background to pull this stuff out.
Maybe they don't. Maybe they still don't have all the IP for the games. That's also
That's true. Yeah, they could be in the process of buying it.
Yeah.
That was Nintendo.
Who knows where it went? I
It
think
was
Mike
not
bought it
only-
all.
Yeah, it wasn't only Atari who developed the games, right? So
Yeah.
That's right, because it was under license to Atari. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nintendo spent a fortune licensing games for their SNES and NES Classic. I also read some article about it when those came out, but they had to license a whole bunch of stuff.
the first game available would be Pong.
Not perfect. Not licensed.
Missile Command and Asteroid, and I don't think Asteroid was Atari, not originally anyway.
Well, Pong actually had the official Pong from Atari had 90, I don't know, 6, 8, something like that. They had a Windows version, which was 3D, and they had some nice twists on it. I remember buying the disc. I think it was one of the only games I actually bought the disc back then. So yeah. I wonder if it's on Steam or anything like that.
It's available somewhere.
So you guys, I know, Nick, you have a watch, and I know that Gal, you have a watch too. I'm talking about like an Apple Watch, whatever
Yeah.
watch. So Ontario law defines distracted driving as holding or using a handheld wireless communication device. And a judge just fined Victoria Ambrose $400 for checking her Apple Watch while waiting at a stoplight. With its miniaturization and trendy technology, an Apple Watch is no safer than a cell phone taped to someone's wrist, said the justice of the peace.
Sure as hell's just as expensive.
Yeah.
While convicting a Gulf woman this month of holding or using a handheld wireless communication device while driving. The key to determine this matter is distraction. It is abundantly clear from the evidence that Miss Ambrose was distracted. When the light turned green, Ambrose had remained parked at the intersection, according to the officer who ticketed her, though 2 cars ahead of her had moved forward. She justified that she was only checking the time, but the officer told the court he's seen Ambrose check her watch 4 different times. Now, on one side, yeah, it's funny. it's a sign of the time kind of thing when people don't understand all this. But on the other side of it, and that's in my opinion, sometimes you stand at the light behind a car and the light turns green and they're still there and you see their head is down. And you want to have one of those cartoon horns that's on an arm that goes out right at the window there and goes right in their ear. Sometimes it can get ridiculous.
If you're driving into a rush hour and you're at a light that maybe lets 3 or 4 cars through at a time, it's frustrating.
It could be frustrating, but this is what's going on in the world now. It's not just here. It's not just in Ontario. It's all over the world.
But we're going to get autonomous cars after that, and that's all.
Then it'll be fine.
Until you're walking your bike across the street and the car hits you at 45 miles an hour and kills you. Until that happens.
Georgia just passed these draconian laws too. Very limited access. You can no handheld devices at all. You cannot talk unless it's a speakerphone. And the only thing you're allowed to, they even restricted access to the way GPSs are used, and it's very, very restricted.
I just, some of these lights, especially down here, and I know up in Raleigh too, they're so long. It's like, what are you supposed to do for? I mean, when I'm not joking, 6 minutes at a light. I mean, you're talking significant amount of time by the time, because these lights just don't let any cars through. So whoever does that down here is incompetent.
Well, the next generation of mobile chipsets need to have an on-off switch that they can actually trigger at the light. I mean, so when the light is red, you can read your phone, but as soon as the light, 15 seconds before the light changes, it blanks your screen.
I would say at 90% of the stoplights I'm on my phone. I don't think that's an inaccurate number.
I mean, it didn't come down here yet. I'm sure people, as things will get worse.
Yeah,
we're probably going to see people going to court over this, and we'll see what happens then. But it could be a problem. There's no doubt. I mean, doing that at a stoplight I don't think can cause an accident, but it is very frustrating that you may get into an accident once you go. People will try to go around that car and something. Something could happen. Yeah, but hey.
And what explains, what is it about, and I thought it was cell phones that did this. What explains people stopping 3 or 4 car lengths back at the light? Have you noticed this?
They're trying to be safe.
And it happens everywhere. And sometimes they're on their phones, sometimes they're not. But what changed that now? I actually did some research online with this, and people are all over the place about why. But you get to a light where there's a queue, the lane that you can queue up in to make a right, for example, is only 6 or 7 cars deep, but you get 2 cars that are leaving 2 car lengths behind them, in front of them. So the traffic to turn right is backing up into the travel lane, or the left is the travel lane, and it really creates a problem, especially at rush hour. What happened? What changed? Did they come up with a memo and we just didn't get it? Or are they training? I'm serious. Did they start training? And it's not new drivers. It's not like kids coming out of driver ed or something like that. It's across the spectrum.
So I have a question. Those stoplights, the detectors that they put in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these stoplights has 2 sets of detectors, one in the front and one in the back. And the back one is basically for signaling there's a long queue. So the stoplight will turn green sooner.
Okay.
Maybe that's the reason?
They do have time of day programming too, so that doesn't always work.
Right.
But you're right. Yeah.
People always want to trick the system. So
for the most part, it works fine, but there are certain intersections that it really screws up. And we talked about it before, when they change and they put suddenly more lanes, or they change something in the intersection and they don't move those sensors. It screws things up. And until enough people complain, I mean, come on, you go and you do the the DOT goes and changes something in an intersection, they should have the data to know, okay, there's something here and there's something here, and when we move it there, we need to move that. They don't. So there are certain problem intersections, and the only thing we can do is actually, if you are one of those that live in these neighborhoods and you see it, call it in. Say, hey, there's a problem there. Hey, what?
I was at a light and I was on my motorcycle, and motorcycles don't trip the detectors.
Right.
So the car in front of me, I pulled up behind them. They were so eager to get past that light. They had pulled past the detector in front. So I'm sitting on top of the detector at the white line, and it's not doing anything. We went through 4 cycles where the light never changed. This person was losing their mind. They were like, you could just see they were just flipping out. And finally, they were going to go through the light. And it finally, I guess after a certain number of inactive cycles, it will finally cycle one time through.
You know, the best intersection, and I don't know why they took that out, right over here at by the Home Depot on Dillard and Walnut.
Yeah.
It wasn't in the street. They had cameras up on the posts, and those cameras were to see when there is traffic and when there isn't, and how much traffic. But they did away with it. I don't know if because a lot of people thought that these were traffic cameras and they were taking it real easy all the time. I don't know, but this is great. I mean, this actually says, okay, yeah, there are 8 cars.
But that sounds like it's controlled by a human. Like there's a human on the other side of the camera, which makes it expensive.
That little gray box on the side of the road. There's a guy in there.
No, the center somewhere in the center of town, but yeah. I mean, it could be India, right? It could be anywhere. It doesn't really matter. It's still a human. It's still
no. These cameras were actually connected to the system, and it just, instead of having the sensor in the street, in the pavement, it was in a camera.
Okay.
I don't know that. I mean, it was a sensor. It looked like a camera. Maybe it wasn't a real camera. Maybe it was just like a radar thing. You know, I don't know.
In Alaska, they have to use the overhead ones because it's so cold, and with the stuff that gets on the road that never goes away the whole winter long, they have to have the overhead detectors because the in-ground stuff doesn't work.
Makes sense. Yeah.
It would, and plus with all the plowing, it would just grind it up anyway. But they have so much. They can't use salt on the road, so they use gravel. So gravel covers everything, and it makes those detectors, the street detectors, not work.
Well, Spence, about your motorcycle weight, right? In North Carolina, the law says that after 3 minutes you can pass the red light.
Does it really?
Yeah. I'll send you a link.
I need to print that off and have that in my wallet.
I was gonna say, because the problem is you pull past it and some cop decides he's gonna have some fun with you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So well, they'll, once you probably cite that, they'll know that they don't want to waste their day on court.
No, then they'll pull you out of your car and ask if you're being detained.
They do make you can put an adapter plate on the bottom of your motorcycle, which will trip it.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
It's a mass. It's like an iron plate that will actually set off the.
Does it help your gas mileage as well?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you need more.
So if you ever get into a gunfight, you just have to.
You need more weight.
Down and use it as a.
You need more weight, right?
I don't know.
More metal.
I don't know much.
It's
I don't
not
know.
weight. It's more metal.
It's just more metal mass to detect.
What'd you say, Gal?
More metal, not more mass, but more metal. It's disrupting the RF field.
Yeah, that's right.
Interesting.
You need to have that special feature they have in ambulances in some cities where they can actually use a radio frequency device that sets all the lights to green when they're traveling through the city.
So make those, they're not hard.
So, Gal, are you saying that only motorcycles can pass on red if it's over 3 minutes in North Carolina, or in general?
So I remembered this rule about 3 minutes red light from a friend. He had a truck, actually, right? So I just researched it and I found it as a special rule for motorcycles.
Okay.
So this is specifically for motorcycles.
Man.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very interesting. All right. So if anybody's using Yahoo Messenger.
Oh no.
It's going to be discontinued in just over a month. And Yahoo owner Oath has announced that it is killing off its famous messenger service on July 17th.
That was AOL, right?
No, well, I don't know. Yahoo did
Yahoo bought AOL or something like that, right? So
I think AIM is still a separate messenger, though.
Yeah,
I could be wrong. I thought it was.
I don't know.
It's an end of an era, though, for sure.
Well, do you know ICQ is still live?
It is, yeah. Alive and well.
Amazingly so.
So I don't know why. There's a plenty.
Yeah.
IRC is still
ICQ.
surprisingly active. There's a whole bunch of servers that are still very popular.
Well, IRC is different. It can be self-hosted. It can be. It's completely different. It makes a lot of sense that it's still alive, even though it's just text-based.
Yeah.
I mean, running a service like Discord, right? That we discussed. That's probably a lot more complex than running a simple server for IRC.
Oh, for sure.
So, yeah.
No. So if you have kids that are into their phones big time, Lower House of Parliament in France has passed what is called a detox law for a younger generation increasingly addicted to screens. As a result, French school students will be banned from using mobile phones anywhere on school grounds starting in September.
Okay, I'm moving to France.
Yes.
I mean, it in a way it makes sense. I mean, we're talking about it, and kids don't make friends. They're into their phone any free minute instead of interacting with the people around them. So it's also adults, yeah.
No, but that's I think it's the wrong way of looking at it. The fact that the kid is in his phone usually means he can be idling, which would be the equivalent of my generation just sitting in front of the TV, right?
Yeah, okay.
Or he can be in touch with his peers. And those peers can be people that sit next to him in class all day, or they can be people from the last school that he left, right?
Yeah.
The social circle is a lot larger. So
But there should be a limit. I mean, come on. You can't spend every free minute.
Yeah, but this system, this creates.
They definitely do it here, right? I have a 17-year-old. He has bring your own device to school policy. That means his phone is with him and active in class. Mm-hmm. But when they enter the class, they deposit their phones on the door. There's a place for them. And only when it's time to use the phone, the teacher tell them, yeah, you can use your phone. They have no real control about what they do with the phone once it's in their hand. That's true.
Yeah,
and that's
okay.
part of the education and teaching your kids from right from wrong. But even in a bring your own device school, there's control. So
I don't know when
this creates a rebel attitude, right? When you say no phones ever, and I mean, when I was going through middle school and high school, the smartphones were becoming a thing that people had, and of course they weren't allowed, but and everybody still used them because it was just like, hey, screw it, rebel. We're not gonna screw your rules, man. Like we're just gonna use it anyway, kind of.
When I was in elementary school, we couldn't use phones at school.
No. Well, what did you guys use?
Well, we talked to each other.
Well, so see, I think this is
nobody would bring their smartphone.
They had tin cans with a wire.
I was waiting for somebody to say something like that.
Oh, they mail letters to each other. Very efficient. But see, I think there's this misconception that all kids do is when they're around other people, all they do is use their device. And I can honestly say that that's not accurate.
Not all, but a lot do.
See, no,
they're around people who they don't care about.
Well, I think that's part of it. That's part of it. Is it's instead of if you're in a situation where you're not interacting with anybody. There's nobody is there that you either want to or do interact with. It's something something else to do. And as you're saying, it's just you're just refreshing your Twitter feed. You're not actually doing anything on your phone most of the time. You're just looking like you're busy by interacting with the phone.
I like what Alan is saying there in the chat. It says school needs to ditch the device day with great prizes every week. You know, turn it into a fun thing to not use the phone.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some people that might be like what you're describing, you know, only using the phone, you know, to, you know, not interacting with people because of the phone. But I don't think everybody's like that.
Yeah, it's and a lot of adults today look at it and they don't even notice it because it becomes a way of life again. Whether or not it's going to be a good thing in 20 years, I don't know. But hey, you can't fight it. So net neutrality. With net neutrality rules scheduled to be repealed on Monday, Senate Democrats are calling on House Speaker Paul Ryan to schedule a vote that could preserve the broadband regulations. The U.S. Senate voted on May 16th to reverse the Federal Communication Commission repeal of net neutrality rules, but a House vote and President Trump's signature still needed. I was going to say to this, I mean, here, it's Monday, and last week, oh, come on, let's do it quick. You know, maybe if they stopped looking at all the negative things that are happening and making up stories, if they worked on this, maybe they could have beat us with net neutrality. But thank God. I mean, my opinion is still that net neutrality did not help anybody. It's all in the head of people. You have your internet, nobody's going to take it away. You have your speed, nobody's going to take it away. And you know, if something happens in the future and you realize that your provider, and I'm not just talking about us peons that are getting access from AT&T and Spectrum and so forth. I'm talking about if one of the providers is seeing that their provider is putting stops on their service, now they can start something and take it to court and say, hey, what are they doing there? That is not right. And at that point, maybe bring back.
There were already remedies and available paths to take, like you say, to deal with this stuff.
Sure.
Putting a framework in place to enforce things just creates the opportunity to enforce more things.
Yeah.
Right down the road. That was from my perspective, that was what I was so afraid of. It says, oh, we're going to put this thing in place because it helps everybody, and let's call it net neutrality when it really isn't even neutral. But we'll make everybody, and then we can add to that later on and put even more controls in place and people under the guise of helping you. And to really keep the internet truly free, we weren't going in that direction. And you can, what other laws have been passed, like the Affordable Care Act?
Affordable, right? Yeah.
Was it really affordable? I mean, and you would find out that they lied when they talked about it. They lied when they pushed all this stuff through. They made things up. You're just too stupid to understand. And it's just, it's an attitude that happens. And the same thing happened with net neutrality. There was just, make it sound like without this, you're going to suffer, when it was only just enacted a few years ago. And did it really change anything?
Well, I think that was my biggest frustration with it. It seemed like there was a lot of fear. It was kind of stoking the fire of, oh, without this, your internet is, you know, specifically sites like Reddit in particular. Oh, you will not be able to access Reddit with net neutrality or without net neutrality. It's like, yeah, you know what? That's just nonsense.
It's fear mongering.
Yeah, it's fear mongering, which I don't like. I'm not a big fan of fear mongering, unless it's warranted, of course. And there's legitimate times where fear mongering is warranted, but I don't believe in that. Because hey, we could be wrong, but I don't think so.
Yeah.
What's the term? People vote with their feet. And if you
That's what
find that a carrier started remember when they started announcing restrictions and throttling and all that stuff? How long did that last?
Yeah, exactly.
It went away because people thought, well, I'm not going to go with Verizon if they're going to throttle me.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's people don't realize the impact that policies have when you have a choice. No.
And another thing here is we all, not all, but we are considered to be YouTube creators. We post on YouTube and all that. We use YouTube. YouTube is known to be a breeding ground for creators. At the same time, however, it is also regularly used to share copyrighted material without permission. While copyright holders can issue takedown notices to remove infringing content, a preliminary ruling by the commercial court in Vienna has decided this is not sufficient. The ruling follows a complaint from local television channel Pulse 4. After a thorough review of YouTube's functionalities, the court concluded that YouTube has an obligation to prevent third parties from uploading infringing content. In its defense, YouTube argued that it is neutral hosting provider under the provision of the E-commerce Act. As such, it should be shielded from direct liability for the actions of users. However, the commercial court disagrees, noting that YouTube takes several motivated actions to organize and optimize how videos are displayed. By doing so, it becomes more than a neutral hosting provider. Well, I don't know about neutral hosting provider, but first of all, YouTube cannot prevent you from, and listen to it carefully, uploading copyrighted material. They don't know that it's copyrighted before it's uploaded and they go through it. So uploading, you upload whatever you want. I mean, again, I'm saying it every week when I upload the show to YouTube, I get a notice that there is copyrighted material in it, and it's the music in the beginning, which I have a license for. And every week I have to go and file a dispute, and it's done. They release it. I think YouTube is doing too good of a job in preventing copyright material if they're looking at something like this that has a license. I mean, Nick, you remember you just put a part of a game to show what something happens, and it was a sports, like, for literally a few seconds, and it was flagged. So I think they are doing, but there's just so much they can do. And if it's live, they can tell.
Well, I love the YouTube's argument that we're just a hosting platform. They should go and tell the owner of Backpage that, who's now going to be in prison for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Over over his neutral, quote unquote, neutral hosting. I mean, screw you, dude. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
nobody else gets away with it. They threw that guy in prison for nothing, or they're going to throw him in prison rather.
Yep.
Hey, four hots and a cot. What can you argue with, right?
I mean, incredible. YouTube wants to say that they're the neutral platform. Give me a break.
Neutral is in the eyes of the beholder.
It was.
But I mean, officially, they are a tool, right?
Oh yeah.
So the defense is still legitimate. They are the tool of their users. It's true they have a lot of control and they enforce a lot of control. So by that, they do not make themselves neutral. But I think the discussion, especially when it gets to a court, right, is whether the tool should be banned, or is it the user of the tool, right? It's the guns versus
People,
versus the holder, right? With the user, the shooter. So it's always a problematic discussion. Do we ban computers because they allow us to upload copyrighted material?
Good
Someone
point.
make the argument.
Right. So why do we stop with YouTube? Why don't we go on the ISP? I mean, it has been done, right? We've seen that. It's the DVD conundrum all over again. We talked about that last week. So, right.
Yeah.
I just think it's frustrating when you've got sites like Craigslist and Backpage that are getting, attacked and gone after for what users are submitting and posting on their website. And this is pretty essentially the same thing.
Exactly.
You're talking about illegal activities. In their case, it was prostitution. In this case, it's copyright infringement, which are I don't know. One is more serious than the other, but they're both illegal activity.
So these are the same battles that are happening over and over and over again, and this is the one that touches us, right?
Yeah.
This is the battle for marijuana. This is the battle for alcohol in the 20s, right? This is the battle for right now copyrighted material, and however it'll fall, it is what's going to become the norm, right? So there's not. I mean, one thing I do like about this is that the discussion around it seems a lot more articulate than we just want to smoke weed. Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So and the implications are a lot larger at the end, because let's say we I mean, the last thing you from I don't know you guys well enough, right? But from what I feel is you don't see YouTube as a neutral player, right? But by them winning or losing this, by
Battle.
the judgment of this case, right? What will happen is it'll affect any of the other not so neutral outlets that cater to a different audience. And that's what's important, right? So if you say, hey, these are too liberal to me, or these are too right wing to me, or these are too, it doesn't really matter, right? Because we need to make sure that all of them are allowed to keep on working.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a difference between a person who sees content and doesn't like it and says, well, I just won't look at it. And there's a person who sees content and says, we need to ban that because I'm offended by it.
Right.
Yep. Oh.
Unfortunately, more and more people like to do that, though. They want to force their way on others.
But that's the beauty of the internet. It's the only place where they are allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Here's something else for you before the special, Spence. Facebook has landed itself in yet another self-inflicted privacy debacle. As many as 14 million Facebook users who thought they were posting items that only their friends or smaller groups could see may have been posting that content to the entire world. And that's according to Facebook. Apparently, it was recommending to post it as public by default instead of private, and then you change it to public if you wanted to. Something happened there, and a lot of people that posted it, they actually, because they're used to it, that it's for their group, were posting it for the world to see. Yeah, problem.
But nothing to see here. Move on.
Yeah. Yeah. So, are you ready for your?
I am ready.
All right.
I've had it. I've had it ready since 5:30 this morning, sitting here waiting. No, that's not true.
Well, that's
Okay.
okay.
Computers 2K Now specials for it's already June 10th. Oh my gosh. Oh, so I've got a lot happening in the next month. So if I lose my mind, I apologize in advance.
No, you'll be fine.
It's a lot happening. I got a lot that has to get done by the time I get on that airplane. So, okay, Computers 2K Now specials June 10th, 2018, starting with laptops. We have an entry level laptop at Best Buy, which is a Dell 15.6-inch AMD A6 for $219.99, $60 off. Office Depot has a Lenovo 17.3-inch Core i5 machine for $449, which is $180 off. And Staples has a Core i5 uh, 15.6-inch Dell for $429, which is $120 off. Not too shabby.
No.
Desktops, all-in-ones, we've got at Best Buy an entry-level Lenovo Intel Pentium. This is the one, that Pentium 3000 series that does have, it's a dual core, 4 threads, so it's logically a four core machine. $199, $100 off. Great starter machine, great student machine. I'm not talking about doing heavy duty video graphics or things like that, but just Lenovo makes a great small form factor machine. Office Depot has a HP 21.5-inch all-in-one AMD A6 for $429.50 off. And Staples has an HP Pavilion desktop Core i5 for $449, which is $150 off. Got a couple of Amazon Fire tablets on sale today at Best Buy. They've got the Fire 8-inch tablet, 32 gig for $89.99. That's 20 off. And Staples has Amazon 7-inch tablet for $39.99, 10 off. If you need just a knock around tablet, I have one of the older Amazon Fire 7s that I think I paid $39 for. I got the ad. I chose to not pay to get the ads canceled out. And on these machines, it's not a big deal to have these ads.
Mm-hmm.
And it really just appears on your home screen, and it's not intrusive. But what a great little machine! If you want to play games on it, you want to do some web browsing, you want to watch Netflix or Amazon Prime Video. They really are, and I've dropped mine a couple of times too, thinking, well, that's it. The case actually separated a little bit. I just snapped it back together, and it continues to work for $40. Jeez. So, and it's got a good support base as far as yes, they are closed from the Google Play. You have to go to the Amazon store to get apps, but pretty much everything is available there. And also, we've got a Samsung Galaxy Tab A 10.1-inch machine at Office Depot for $229, which is $50 off the regular price. Networking, Linksys Velop dual band mesh system. If you're struggling with your Wi-Fi at home, you're looking to upgrade from whatever you're at. If you're at N, 802.11n, you really need to upgrade to the AC standard. This is an AC system that the dual band system, as well as the tools that are built into the standard as far as dealing with interference and signal strength and so on, makes these systems worth it. I don't like the idea of putting repeaters in, although this is essentially that kind of a system. This is what they call wireless mesh, where you have one base station that's connected physically to your Ethernet, and then you have other remote satellites that are talking over a different Wi-Fi band to each other, and then allowing you to connect to a separate band. So you're not sharing bandwidth. It does a good job of dealing with dead spots in your house, and you can take these remotes out there and just move them around. All they need is power, and look for the best environment. Some of these actually come with some nice tools for setting them up, but the Linksys system, $249, one base station, 2 remotes for $50 off. And if you are trying to upgrade your machines to your PCs to the AC standard, and you don't have that chipset, We've talked about what to do through a USB port, which is nice, but they usually don't have very good antennas and they're limited in the chipset. But if you have a desktop machine, you have an empty slot, PCI Express slot, you can add an AC uh, dual band wireless adapter with some honking antennas on it. This is StarTech. It's $90. It's not on the regular sale, but I wanted to point this out to say that these are available. So if you want to take your desktop, move it around the house, and not worry about having to connect it directly to Ethernet, get some decent throughput, this would be an option. There are other options, but this is one. Finally, under networking, Netgear Nighthawk S8000 8-port gaming and multimedia uh, Ethernet switch. The reason I bring this up, it's $79, it's $20 off the regular price. If you are a serious gamer, if you would like to link multiple switches together, if you would like to do prioritization of traffic, quality of service, if you'd like to do what they call multi-link, this switch has a lot of the features of more expensive switches. You can take, for example, what they call link aggregation. And link aggregations lets you take up to 4 gigabit ports and run an individual cable for each one and have them all aggregated into actually a 4 gig link, physical link between the two switches. So if you want to run high-speed traffic between two locations in the building and you have a physical plant, a bunch of Ethernet cables available, this is a really inexpensive way to get some really fast throughput without putting in fiber. But these are very sophisticated machine. I'm not even touching on what some of the features are here for management. But it's $79, which is $20 off the regular price. Storage, got a couple of good deals on solid state drives. You've got at Best Buy SanDisk 512 for $109, save $90. I've got a PNY 240 gig for $74.99. This is at Office Depot. And we've got a desktop hard drive, USB 3.0 Seagate 4 terabyte at Staples for $99. And whether you plug this directly into your PC or Mac for backup, or you take advantage of the USB port that many routers come with now that lets you share those devices on the network, this is a really inexpensive way to get network attached storage in your home. You can take this drive, plug it in, let the router format it, and then it shows it as a available networking devices you can add either the map drive to your machine, use it for backup. That's how I have several of mine set up. I have a cloud drive, which is nice, but I also have several of my older USB 3.0 drives that are connected to routers, and I use them for network storage. But $99 for a 4 terabyte drive. It's amazing. If you took this apart, it probably would not be usable in a machine. Sometimes they now have proprietary SATA interfaces in there that are not the standard connectors. I took one apart that failed just to see, and sure enough, it was something unrecognizable. I don't know what it was. I'm sure it's some type of standard, but it might be a server interface that I'm not aware of. But 4 terabytes for $99, and the regular price is only $10 more. It's incredible. Accessories. If you have a bunch of VHS tapes laying around, any kind of tape that has a composite output, whether it's an old 8mm or digital tape camcorder that you want to capture, this will take any composite output from whatever device and let you capture it digitally and either create a DVD or a file to it. And this is Easy VHS, $39.99, say $30. It has the actual conversion device as well as software. And they're not real fast necessarily. They don't, if it's a if it can only record it at the real-time speed that it's being played back on the device with. But if you have that family tape like I had that has your first 10 years of your kids' lives all on a single VHS tape, that's an exposure. I've since then captured it, and I have multiple copies stored in different places, so I have it. But my original Pinnacle movie box that I had died a long time ago, but that was the way I did it. I have a newer version of this, not this particular one, but this is a good price, $40 at Best Buy. What, somebody say something?
No, but I was going to say that you can also do service for the rest of the extended family if they need to do something, and they can pay you $5-10. I mean, it's not cheap to have that done professionally.
Oh no, it isn't.
And
No.
these devices do it the same way that they do it.
Well, the professional guys have playback devices that play them back at high speed.
Well, it doesn't matter.
But I'm saying for them,
Yeah.
they've invested in equipment
Yeah.
that can do this stuff faster. There's several services out there that you just throw the stuff in a box and you get it back with a DVD or a flash drive with the videos on it, and they'll do the same thing for photographs too. You can send them a box full of pictures and they'll scan them in.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
But something to think about if you have to have the time to do this. I mean, this is not a trivial thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to dust off those old devices and make sure they still work. And in some cases with these older digital tape or 8mm stuff, you got to make sure you still have the cable, because they don't have, there's a proprietary connection to that device that fans out to your composite left, right, stereo, and composite video. So if you don't have that cable, basically you're out of luck. So do it before that stuff stops working. You obviously can't find anybody to fix this stuff anymore. It's really hard. If the power supply dies, what are you going to do? You're dead, right? So do it now before it's too late. Okay. Logitech MK335 wireless keyboard and mouse for $19.99. That's at Office Depot. Amazon Fire Stick at Staples for $29.99, which is $10 off. Monitors. I also added multimedia here because sometimes I have more than one thing I want to mention that doesn't fit into I can't fit them both into the accessories slot. So I added multimedia here for the future. So if I do see something, we see monitors every week. There's always a good deal on a monitor. It does get kind of boring after a while, but AOC 21.5-inch monitor at Best Buy for $89.99, 40 off. 27-inch Dell monitor for $149.99, save $100 at Office Depot Office Max. And a 23.5-inch curved LED at at Staples, a Samsung monitor for $149, which is 30 off. Printers and scanners. We actually have 2 scanners today. Epson Workforce ES500W wireless document scanner for $329.99. That's $70 off. It's automatic duplex scanning, color duplex. Epson Workforce DS40 portable document feeder. This is also, I have the DS30. It's a USB connected device, but this one is wireless and has a battery built in. So if you're on that clandestine spy mission and you're in the archive of some place you're not supposed to be and you need to scan those documents in, you can do it wirelessly with your battery. As long as you can get it in and out of the building without them noticing you have this, right? You'll be fine. So the DS40, $119, $60 off. Brother HL 3170 CDW wireless color laser for $199. It's $50 off. The prices continue to come down on these color lasers. That's at Staples. Home automation and security. We have the August Smart Lock Pro Connect. This is a deadbolt for your door. For $249.99, save $30. August company has been out there. It's well rated. It is on the expensive side. You can, if you already have a home automation system in place, Schlage makes a very nice keypad activated as well as wireless control deadbolt for your home. This actually replaces it uses the existing deadbolt, whereas the Schlage one is the entire deadbolt. And you can give out codes to people to enter and time of day and all that. They all work that way with, if this, then that type programming. But August one is on sale, $30 off, $249. If you're looking to get into home lighting control. At Office Depot, Office Max, this is not off the regular sale, but Philips Hue White Ambiance A19 starter kit, which contains the wireless bridge used to communicate between the bulbs and your system. It works with Alexa, works with Link, works with Google, works with Apple. It works with all the common home automation protocols. But $69, two A19. These are not color bulbs, but you can control the frequency of light, but just not within a full spectrum with these bulbs. But a way to start. And at Staples, they have Ecobee thermostat and one remote sensor for $209, save $40. That's a good deal. I've installed several of these Ecobees, very sophisticated thermostats, work with home automation. What I like about the sensors is you can place a sensor in another room and say at night you want to adjust the temperature based about in your bedroom, but during the day you want to have it out in the hall where the thermostat is. You can do that. You can actually set what sensor does what, or you can use all the sensors in the house and just have the average temperature. It all depends on your layout. Something else nice about it is when you do have a temperature change, the default for this thermostat is it will start 2 hours before the new temperature. Like say you were in the living room and during the day you want it to be 68, but in the evening you want it to go, you don't care if it goes up to 72 or 74 when you go to bed. Or you might want to adjust the temperature to be cooler during the day, whatever your need is. It just doesn't wait till 3 o'clock and then turn the air conditioning on full blast, hoping to bring the temperature to what you want it to be, or the heat. It knows to start and to slowly bring that temperature up over time to whatever you want it to be at that set time. So this is very, you can actually turn that feature off, but it is default on. $209, $40 off at Staples. And finally at Fry's, so we always catch some interesting stuff. Amnon, this Extreme Action Series Velcro wrist strap. I think that you need to produce one of your shows using only this for your cameras as an experiment.
Everybody's going to get dizzy, just like when I was.
But I mean, you could just attach and everybody will just have all the wrist control stuff. You can have them all over Wi-Fi aggregated into your controller. We'll figure out how to do it. It'd be very interesting. But you're right. I think we need to give out.
I agree. It will be very interesting.
It will be. It will be, absolutely. It's a pretty cool idea, but I think the motion from this would be mind-numbing.
Yep.
Yeah. Socomec is a new brand out there, battery backup systems, $30 for a 350 backup system. This would be very useful for backing up your home networking gear, your cable modem, your DSL modem, your fiber converter, whatever it is, however you've got your internet coming into your home. $30, which is $10 off the regular price. This Belkin surge protector, I like this. Not for an 8-port surge protector for $18.99, that's not a bad price if it's a good surge protector. But the fact that it's got the rotating outlets on it that lets you plug in multiple devices that you normally could not plug in next to each other, that's a big deal. Because the only other way to do this would be to have those short cables.
Yep, that's what I do.
I do that too. I have a bunch of those, and that is very effective. But it takes up room. This is a clever device. So you can plug in a bunch of little USB chargers. You could plug in power supplies to little network gear, little network devices, or whatever, or just regular line cords, and actually get to use all 8 receptacles without having to give up a few because of the size of some of these chargers. $18.99, which is you get $16 off. And I bring up again this whole idea of the new user interface for car stereos, that whether it's the Google interface or the Apple interface. We have a new car that's got the Apple interface, and it actually is quite well done. It actually becomes a repeater for your phone. So if you run Google Maps or some type of mapping software on your phone, it will appear on the screen, formatted in the correct, not just a mirror. It does support a mirroring, so you can actually show an exact screen of what's on your phone, but you can actually adapt the menu and it will bring up things that are relevant to the mobile environment. And the prices are coming down. This one is from Pioneer. It does have restrictions as far as installation, as far as size. You need a doubled in space for this to fit. But this particular one, $349, but you can get it with a promo code. If you sign up for these promo codes, you can get it for $259 at so it's an additional $90 off. It's pretty slick. This is all at Fry's, by the way. And finally, Cobra HD dash cam. This is a continuous recording dash cam, Bluetooth enabled, red light alert, speed cameras, live polio locations. What is that? I didn't have a chance to look that up. And I like the shared radar alerts, so that if you're in an area where radar detectors are illegal, you may be able to get alerted at least to radar being in an area. I'm not saying you should rely on this. I'm not condoning speeding, which makes me absolutely insane to see the way some people drive. But you might be tootling along, 5 over on the interstate and not be paying attention. The next thing you know, you're 15 over, and this could potentially alert you that there's a speed trap up ahead, and you better get your act together. But $129, which is $20 off the regular price, or $109 with a promo code. And that's it for Computers 2K Now specials for June 10th, 2018. What was that, an explosion?
Where?
I just heard some weird sound in the background. It sounded like an explosion.
I didn't hear. Look outside the window.
Yeah, I'm going to have to. No, it wasn't definitely in my earbuds.
Oh, I mean,
yeah, it was somebody's head just exploded. Maybe that's what it was.
I don't know.
I heard it as well.
It almost sounded like, remember old amplifiers? If you touched like a PA system and you touched it and the reverb got hit and it bounced around inside the little spring-loaded, the echo effect that you had, it was a mechanical thing. That's what it sounded like. Just happened.
I did it.
You did it? Okay.
I guess I did it. I mean, blame it on me. That's fine.
No, I just thought it was weird.
Yep.
I thought it was a sound effect that somebody played.
Yep.
Okay, then.
So anyway. 919-518-9773, Computers 2K Voice on Skype.
There was a comment in text that I would like to talk about for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
Alan said, am I correct that mesh is like Wi-Fi in school? And Locksmith said, it depends.
That's Locksmith. That's Gal.
Oh, that's like, okay. All right. So, but yes, the flexibility of Wi-Fi in a large environment where you've got multiple access points. The nice part about these centrally managed systems is that they have automatic handoff and load balancing and signal strength mitigation and things like that built in. That's all centrally controlled. And they keep going back and forth from having a central hub where all the traffic runs through it to where you've got a distributed model. I mean, it all depends on the chipsets and the availability of technology at that moment when they produce a new system. But these will do faster handoff, because once you've authenticated to the first access point, it doesn't have to go through that handshake again when you move to the next one in the system. Essentially, you're pre-authenticated. So you can move around and have much better response. You don't have to wait until you get to the point where your signal's so weak that it says, oh, lost signal. Let me look for another one. And it does provide, most of these mesh systems will provide better connectivity, faster connectivity, better movement around. And yes, it is like some schools are not that way. Some schools are just old individual access points, not centrally controlled. That's an old system. But the newer ones are actually centrally controlled and managed. So if you want to knock somebody off because they're an offender or abusing the system or using too much bandwidth, you can do it from one location, and it then sends that command out to all of the access points and say, all right, we're going to limit this user or knock this user off or turn him off for an hour because he's a bad person. Whatever you want to do is all centrally managed.
Spence, when are we installing that mesh system here?
The mesh system? Oh, do you mean the one that I had from years ago? Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Nortel, what do they call that? We actually had a trial or I had it installed at the North Carolina Fairgrounds. It was an early version of mesh using the Carrier Development Lab up in Toronto. They came out with a way of taking the 2.4 band, which is your wireless N, wireless G, and part of the AC standard, and using it for traffic, and using the 5 gigahertz band, which was the traditional A standard, as what they call backhaul. So you would have all these octagon-shaped boxes that were probably 2 feet high and about 10 inches across. You provided power, and you would build a mesh, and they'd talk to each other, and they'd create a mesh system where they'd all talk to each other, and then you offered then the 2.4 gigahertz radio to the users. And it was really hard to set up. You had to have a separate controller just to run the system. And you had to do a wireless survey, and it was really hard to set up, where today most of this happens automatically. But yeah, that was cool. And we did actually install it several places. I actually did trials at different arenas in Raleigh, shopping malls.
I guess at this point,
stadiums.
I guess at this point, the only thing it can be used is sell it for its weight.
That's it. You still have them?
Oh yeah. I mean, come on, it's yours. I'm not going to throw it away.
Oh no! Oh, you could. All that stuff, Amnon, is so dated. You can. You just need to give it to your museum at this point. But yeah, that was interesting. And we had that. We had a trial kit that we would take around to demo, and set it up. That was a big deal. I almost put that in. What was the new mall that's up by 540 on Capitol Boulevard?
Yeah, Triangle.
Partner I was working with. We almost won that deal to put it in there. This is back before there were much cheaper, better performing systems, because it was proprietary. Everything on the link aggregation side was proprietary.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Last week we were talking about cord cutting and pirating and things like that. According to a paywall survey of 1,000 UK residents by anti-piracy outfit MUSO, first spotted by Torrent Freak, 60% of those surveyed admitted that they had illegally streamed or downloaded music, film, or TV shows sometime in the past. But the study also showed that 83% of those questioned tried to find the content they are looking for through above-board services before trying anything else. And while the study found that 86% of survey takers subscribe to a streaming subscription service like Netflix, that total jumped to 91% among those that admit to piracy. The survey found that the top reason users pirate is the content they were looking for wasn't legally available, was too cumbersome or difficult to access, or wasn't affordable. So that's interesting. And I always go, whenever I think about this, I always go back to the 80s where the thing to pirate back then was AutoCAD.
Okay.
I mean, you had to have AutoCAD. I mean, you would never do anything with it, but you had it because it was $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And the story was going that AutoCAD, I can't remember the manufacturer, didn't care because they realized that people will play with it and wouldn't do anything. These are people that are not going to buy it. But what happened, a byproduct of it was that these people would go to their place of work. And if they did use something like this at work or something similar, they would talk about it and the company would go ahead and buy it after seeing it because it was so good. So that was their way of sort of like marketing it. It has nothing to do with what we're talking here now about pirating, but I remember those days when they said, "Yeah, it's fine. Let them do it. What are they going to do with it?" And really, what are you going to do with it? You were going to say, Gal?
No, software is different, but yeah, pirating, especially in music, where usually those who would download complete discographies of artists, right, are those who would have never even bought the CD in the first place, right? I'm talking 90s. And that would get them hooked on anything new that would come out from these artists.
Yep.
But the problem is that this was never viewed as acceptable
Right.
by the rights owners, right?
The power that be,
yeah.
yeah.
Except for those artists who were always into it, right? Grateful Dead from 70s, right? They said, hey, record everything and send it to your friends, right? And there are a few modern attempts like this of superstars, right? Large stars, large widespread known stars like Radiohead giving out their album at the first place, or selling it as in a pay what you want scheme. And as far as I know, all these attempts were all successful. So
yeah, and then you have the other side of these, like Metallica.
The worst.
Yeah.
They annihilated their own fans.
Yeah, they did.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what they did. So, yeah.
Absolutely.
Just a disconnection from reality, I guess.
Everybody's always talking about how piracy hurts the industry, right? But when you look at the advancements today of content creation with piracy in place, and piracy today is way easier than it was at the early ages, right?
Sure.
The bandwidth is higher, and even with all the legal issues in place, right? Like when an ISP blocks you because of a takedown and all of that. Even with all that in place, piracy is still rather simple to access. And with all that, we have the best content ever, right? On TV and in cinema. Things have there's still money to be made in the arena. So it's all about ease of accessibility, and that's what we talked about last week, and that's what the article you just read is exactly what we said.
Yep.
Can you imagine what it would have been like had the RIAA not been on defensive restrict mode, but on promoting and cooperation mode back in the day?
We would have Spotify right after Napster, right?
Yeah. And they basically poisoned the market for themselves, and despite that, they still have success. Yeah.
Well, what they did is we need to thank them because individual artists and are better equipped in distributing their work today, not through them. So
yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right, here's another interesting subject we can talk about. No one picks up the phone anymore.
Not true.
Even many businesses do everything they can do, anything they can to avoid picking up the phone. And the author goes, of the 50 or so calls I received in the last month, I might have picked up 4 or 5 times. The reflex of answering, built so deeply into people who grew up in the 20th century telephone culture, is gone. There are many reasons for the slow erosion of this comments. The most important aspect is structural. There are simply more communication options. Text, messaging, and its associated multimedia variations are rich and wonderful. Words mixed with emoji, bitmoji, reaction gifs, regular old photos, videos, links, texting is fun, lightly asynchronous, and possible to do with many people simultaneously. It's almost as immediate as a phone call, but not quite. You got your Twitter, your Facebook, your work Slack, your email, FaceTime, incoming from from family members. So many little dings have begun to make the ring obsolete. But in the last couple of years, there's a more specific reason for eyeing my phone ring warily. Perhaps 80 or even 90% of the calls coming into my phone are spam or one of one kind of or another. There are unsolicited telemarketing calls. There are straight up robocalls that merely deliver recorded messages. There are cyborg telemarketers who sit in call centers playing pre-recorded bits of audio to simulate a conversation. I mean, it's true. It's more and more uh it's becoming a hazard and a nuisance more than anything else. But and here there's my but in my opinion.
Hmm.
Me running a business, I have to answer the phone. I mean, otherwise you tell people I don't want to do business with you. When I want something, when I want to find something out, I pick up the phone and I call because you don't know if you send an email how long it's going to take to answer. I mean, I need an answer now. So you pick up the phone. But all this spam stuff, that is a big, big problem. And you come up with all kind of call blocking and blacklists and no more robo and all that. It works to a point, but it's not a solution that takes it completely out. What were you going to say, Gal?
So I mean, I work in tech support,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And it's definitely a pain thinking about how to help out your customers the best way. And I can tell you for sure that, especially in the world of tech support, the phone call, when it's incoming to the business providing the support, is the worst way of providing support, because whoever picks up the phone might not be the person you
correct.
really need,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So the most efficient way of providing good support is having a good team, a large enough team that answers email, um, where the customer actually describes their issue, right? They send a small snippet, and then the conversation starts with the right person from the beginning. So in that world, I can tell you yes, but we cannot do without, especially in enterprise levels, an enterprise as such I'm working in, they cannot allow themselves, right, not providing phone support. So some of the customers, as time goes on, they learn that the best support they'll get is actually via email. But that's when support works. So you're right. Newer enterprises, newer companies, they're looking for how to not do everything good except phone, right?
Right.
Because phone is less effective in that situation, and that's understandable. However, phone is never going to be dead because we're still going to phone them, or have some sort of conference call that they can call in when we're working. Because when you are face to face with we're here on audio, and it is the most effective medium when we want to converse, right? uh, uh, as close as we can, but not be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still probably going to outshine video for a long time when it comes to one-on-one conversation. There's being in person is great, right? The next best thing is not a video conversation, but an audio conversation. We don't need to look at one at each other all the time while we're conversing. We just need to be engaged. So audio is probably still better than video. I don't know what's going to happen in the VR world with full immersion and stuff, but as long as we're not there, this is probably audio is going to rule. But there's like a couple of anecdotes I'd like to add to that article, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're saying phone is being diminished, right? Reminds me of a very old commercial back in Israel, but I'm guessing it's a version of something that came out elsewhere. The creatives, they had this idea where they were selling the small Nokia phones with the crammy camera, where camera was a new thing in phones, and you see a whole party coming into the service center, all dressed up in suits, and the older guy, he comes into the front and he says, "We were at our son's wedding." And they're all coming from a wedding. The groom and the bride are there. We're at the son wedding, and suddenly there's the trouble with the phone. And the tech, she says, "What are you talking about?" She says, "Well, we were filming the wedding the wedding couple dancing, and suddenly it stopped." And she doesn't understand. And then the phone rings and says, "Here, you see." That's the problem. So definitely our phones have become, we only call them a phone, but they're mostly something else, right? People
Yeah.
tend to forget that the phones are no longer phones. They're computers in your pocket that can also do phone calls. I'm still amazed that the phone call functionality has priority above anything else, right? It's that in the design, they're still probably obliged to make the phone the first, and then everything around
And
it.
everything around it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Hey,
on the other
you
hand, you
on our
mentioned something
device.
else.
Go ahead.
You mentioned the cybernetic systems,
Yeah,
that
cyborgs,
cyborgs. So
AI.
there's there was a specific hack against 1-800 numbers. I'm probably going to mess up a lot of the details because it just jumped to my memory. But what the hacker did was generate calls to 1-800 numbers with odd recordings of people's conversation, recording of just strange sounds from a foghorn or something. And the way that hack worked is that the way 1-800 number works is the telecom companies, they're not one single entity, right? They're distributed entities across a geographic location. So routing can work through different companies on the way. And when a 1-800 call triggers, there's somebody that's the callee is paying the fees,
Mhm.
and that goes to the telephone companies, but it also goes to all the different telecom distributors around them. So the hacker would register somehow as one of these distributors on the way and would generate these calls. And the reason for the different recordings was how to figure a way of causing the person picking up the phone on the other end of the 1-800 number to keep the phone on as long as possible.
Okay.
And the recordings are amazing. I'll send you a podcast
Interesting.
that dives into this. Like it's a 30 minutes. I'll share it with everyone in a moment. And it's like the idea in the first place was amazing. It was being investigated while they did that podcast. It was being investigated by the FCC, and but they haven't found the culprits yet. They haven't found who was doing that, and it was a very elaborate scheme. It was a very interesting one. But
It's
so
it goes even farther than that, Gal. Here is an article about something similar. Caller ID is feeding one of the very problems it was developed to stop: junk calls. Legitimate robocallers, illegitimate robocallers, or outfits that flood American landlines with marketing calls use the decades old identification system to make money, even when no one picks up. While scammers' biggest paydays come from tricking victims into handing over credit card or bank account information, many robocallers make incremental cash along the way, thanks to little known databases that try to identify who is calling. Each time a caller's name is displayed, phone companies pay small fees, typically fractions of penny, to databases that store such records. Some of these fees are handed back to the caller. With millions of automated calls a day, the amounts can add up. It's slow nickels, not fast dimes for scammers, but it helps offset the cost of making the calls. And this is by president of Teleswitch, a company that licenses out telecommunications billing software. So those scammers and robocallers that are making all these junk calls are costing each and every one of us. Every time they make a call, they are somehow getting paid in a back way. And guess who pays for it? We pay for it at the bottom line. What do? Even if you don't answer, they're making money.
You cut the cord.
Yeah. That's bad stuff.
Yep.
Bad stuff. Nick.
Yes, sir.
You into memes and stuff?
I mean, I don't. It depends on where this conversation's going.
Memes, remixes, and other user-generating content could disappear online.
Oh, great.
If the EU proposed rule on copyright become law.
Oh, Jesus.
Digital rights groups are campaigning against the copyright directive, which the European Parliament will vote on later this month. The legislation aims to protect right holders in the internet age. But critics says it misunderstands the way people engage with web content and risks excessive censorship. The Copyright Directive is an attempt to reshape copyright for the internet, in particular, rebalancing the relationship between copyright holders and online platforms. Article 13 states that platform providers should take measures to ensure the functioning of agreements concluded with right holders for the use of their work. Critics say this will, in fact, require all internet platforms to filter all content put online by users, which many believe would be an excessive restrictions on free speech. There is also concern that the proposals will rely on algorithm that will be programmed to play safe and delete anything that creates a risk for the platform. So we're going to get into a point where everybody is going to have, I mean, if you have a website, if you have a blog, if you your Facebook page, anywhere, it's all going to get filtered. You're going to have to get to filter. And if there is any chance that that stuff is copyrighted, you remove it. What in the world are we coming to?
We're probably coming to the world of stopping to use copyrighted materials. Not a bad thing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, again, it's not only going to stop copyrighted material. It's going to.
No, I'm thinking creators will stop creating material
Yeah.
that will be copyrighted because the non-copyrighted material will be more widespread. Right?
Eh,
It's exactly
but wait a second.
exactly piracy all over again.
But hold it a second. If we are creating Computers 2K now, right now,
Right.
and we put it on YouTube,
Right.
it's copyrighted by us
That's
automatically.
That's true.
Now, I want everybody to be able to take it and put it anywhere and show other people what we do. But at that point, if you go and you put it on your blog, software somewhere may say, "Oh no, this came from YouTube." No, you can't do that. And delete it.
This is another example of people that have no idea what the hell they're doing, trying to make
It's
laws
amazing.
and rules and regulations to
Exactly.
I mean, this is why it's funny when Congress talks about anything to do with technology. They're so out of touch with what people how and why people use and interact with things on the internet. It's laughable.
I mean, Gal,
who's going to enforce any of this?
Huh?
You know, I mean, are we going to have the legitimate internet police running around enforcing garbage like this? I mean, are you kidding me?
So discussions of these laws, right? I think this is exactly what they generate. If there's one thing that was applaud in the hearing with Zuckerberg,
Yeah.
right, was that this is finally something that is discussed properly, and you can see who's in touch and who's not, right? And you start taking these into proportion. These attempts to limit, to regulate, and there's a lot of false starts. There's a lot of actions that are done wrong, and we're living with some of them, right? The fact that we get a call from our ISP or we're blocked from by our ISP because pirated material came to us, right? It doesn't really matter if you initiated it or if you were hacked. The fact that you're blocked is a part of that. The question is, in the long run, right? We're in the battle right now. The laws are being battled out, and eventually something will be more stable than others. The fact that the Europeans are talking about it doesn't make it so. Doesn't make it that it's going to happen. It's in debate right now. I'm not saying take it lightly. On contrary, right? This is when everyone that has any type of control, any type of influence on whoever's going to pass those laws, this is the time the discussion needs to happen. Yeah, it comes from forces that do not understand. It comes from the Metallicas, right? It comes from forces who do not understand how this works. I'm guessing there's one of two ways that this is going to go through. One is memes will actually get legitimation and you will never be able to copyright these anymore at all, right? They'll automatically become public domain. That's one. Unlikely though. And the other is some copyrighted material could be controlled in some way. So you would only be able to send a meme generated through a generator somewhere, right? And that generator will
Generator.org.
correct the fees, something like that, right? I don't think it'll come to a point where the creator is. It might come to a situation where a creator of a meme might be able to get something back via ad revenue, something that was not possible before. But I don't think we're going to see policing in a way of banning.
There was actually an instance of this, and I actually followed this one quite closely. People are, I'm sure, familiar with who Alex Jones is. He created a poster. He created a poster, and it included Pepe the Frog, the green frog, and he is the creator of that meme is suing Alex because he is selling the poster with a version of Pepe the Frog. So
yeah, Pepe the Frog is an interesting evolution of how a meme started from one thing, not a meme at all, right? It started as a comic strip.
Yes.
That somebody, a character in a comic strip, not even a very important character in that comic strip.
Yeah.
And it became a meme that went from, I don't remember if it went far left ever, but it became far right at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And,
absolutely.
And the creator is trying to somehow regain its dignity, right?
No.
Yeah.
I mean,
and yeah, it's out of its control.
I mean, the way that I look at it this way. I don't want. I sent Gal an email and I said I need your picture for the homepage. He sent me one. I'm going to put it now. Imagine I have to send Gal a request for his picture. With it, I have a 17-page release form that he needs to read and sign that gives me the right to display his picture on the home page. Things like this you putting a picture of your kid on your Facebook page, but there are other kids from the school that are with him. You may not be able to do it. Today, if you wanted to go and take and put a picture in the paper of somebody and there are other people in it, and I'm not talking about a public figure, you have to get a release form to do that, or on TV. I mean, imagine that this has been the practice all along. I don't know, they may have done away with that. But if I have to ask for permission from each and every person, if I want to put them on the in a medium like ours that's video, I mean, this is going to be, it's going to turn into I'm going to have to hire a secretary and a lawyer to sit here and do it, and I'm going to forget about being able to do a show. I'm going to have to be preoccupied with everything else. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about those that, there are some cases that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. But the things that people do every day and grew up with, now you're going to tell me that I may not be able to do this. I'm not going to be able to quote what you told me. I have to ask your permission for that because you said it and it's yours.
I can tell you the difference. What the big thing here is going to be, are you making money off of what you're doing? If you're reposting a meme on Reddit or Twitter, I think I don't think somebody's going to go to the extent to go after you. But in the case of Alex Jones and Pepe the Frog, he was selling a physical product that he was making money off of, which in that respect, the owner of the frog, if it's determined that it's his frog, he should absolutely get some royalties on it.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
That's how capitalism works. But when you talk about this thing going on over in the EU, it just shows the sheer incompetence.
That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about.
Internet police are going to be stomping down your door for posting a GIF on Reddit. I mean, it's just nonsense to think anything like that. And then the fact that they can even contemplate that and talk about that just shows how freaking out of touch they are with how anything on the internet works whatsoever.
Right. It's just it's unbelievable. I mean, it's I don't know what what do these people take before they go to a meeting to talk about things like that? They must be
no idea. It's crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's like watching that Zuckerberg Senate hearing when the senators were asking questions like, well, if I friend somebody and they put a picture on my page, what happens if I decide I don't like that picture? And I go from there, and my grandmother wants to access just the level of the questions. They were not briefed properly, or they just didn't care.
Yeah, it's
stuff like the problem is stuff like this is scary because rules and regulation and law can be put into place that could be incredibly damaging by morons, people that have no idea what they're talking about, what they're doing.
Protect your ass. We'll call it the Protect Your Ass Act.
Oh, perfect. I love it. Right next to net neutrality.
What's wrong with that? It's protection, and my ass needs protecting. So what's wrong? I could make,
All right.
Where do I sign up?
Maybe it'll be Protect Your All Ass.
Ooh, I like that.
It'll be You Bet Your Ass.
Just one more thing I want to mention here before we.
I got another quick one too.
Oh, okay. Go. Okay, so this one, if a lot of people are into genealogy, and it seems like that customers of MyHeritage uncovered 92 million accounts detail related to the company sitting on a server somebody found.
Nice.
So if you are on MyHeritage, be aware. Go ahead, Nick.
I don't believe we covered this, but GitHub was. I don't think this was on last week's show.
No,
GitHub was purchased by our Lord and Savior Microsoft for $7.9 or $7.5 billion.
Tell people what GitHub is.
Yeah, GitHub is a
repository,
open source repository where if you're downloading anything, pretty much anybody that produces or makes anything that's open source hosts it on GitHub, which is I think the largest repository. There's a whole bunch of self-hosted solutions, but GitHub's the big one. And Microsoft purchased them. I would imagine a lot of it has to do with the price probably has a lot to do with users and user data. But Microsoft says they'll keep it separate. Of course, the tech community, losing their minds. But then you do have to remember that LinkedIn is owned by Microsoft, and they've been able to keep that a pretty independent service of Microsoft. When you log into LinkedIn, there's no indication
that it's Microsoft.
I don't use it a whole lot, but from the experience I have with it, I don't remember them it's not like when you log, it's not like on Windows where they're shoving Edge and all this stuff down your throat. They keep it pretty independent. And I would assume they said they'll be doing the same thing with GitHub, and I don't see why they wouldn't, because there's other solutions out there. Atlassian makes another product called I don't remember what it's called, but there's other open source repositories like this. So
Bitbucket, yeah,
Bitbucket, yes, Bitbucket. There you
go. They used to have their own product. Don't remember code.
Microsoft.
Something. Yeah.
Code Engine, was that it?
No, don't remember right now. I'll check later. But it's like this sale, I'm not sure it's all about user data as much as about controlling the process of Microsoft becoming more and more open source. They have a lot of their tools are becoming more and more open source as they advance more and more into the cloud.
Yeah.
More and more into Azure services, more and more into providing their infrastructure to all. They are actually pushing, right, PowerShell, one of their most powerful tools that they created in the past 5 to 10 years on the Windows platform. They're pushing it into Linux via open source code. And the next version is going to be open source only. So, and it's going to be what drives their Azure services over Linux. SQL Server by Microsoft is not going to run the best on a Microsoft Windows machine anymore. It's going to run the best in the cloud on a Linux machine. So things are definitely changing, and that's probably part of that move.
Yeah. So honestly, I think it's exciting for GitHub. I know there's the fear that Microsoft's going to do what they did with Skype and kind of break the product. But I don't foresee that. I mean, they'd be real stupid to screw up what GitHub's got going on.
Yeah. The best thing about this merger are the memes.
Oh yes. Oh, for sure. There are lots of good memes surrounding this.
Clippy and every time Microsoft buys some company, Clippy comes up with a new meme about how am I going to help you to do X, Y, Z. So
Clippy's an internet favorite, internet classic.
Yeah. All right. Anything else anybody wants to add here real quick?
Sir.
All right. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you.
It was great. Thanks. Gal, Spence, Nick. I wonder what happened to Mike today. I hope everything is okay. All right. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thanks, everybody, for tuning into Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9. But you can always reach us at computers2know.com. While you're at it, like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Tonight at 7, Nick is hosting Against the Norm on Wilmington's Big Talker 106.7. And you can listen on TuneIn. See you next week, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.